You are listening to Backstage Pass podcast, hosted by Hannah Trigwell and brought to you by Thomann. Hello, Vian Izak.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm happy to be here.
Good. I'm happy to have you on. You are a recording artist, producer. You have an amazing project that combines comic book art with music, and I definitely want to talk about that. But first, let's do some quick fire questions. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Recording or touring?
Recording.
Biscuits or crackers?
Crackers, but I understand the whole biscuit thing.
Vinyl or streaming?
Streaming.
As a massive fan of Gorillaz, when I saw your stuff, I was like, oh, it's happening again. But tell us more about this. Tell us more about your comic book persona and how it ties in with the music.
I'm from South Africa originally, and we moved to the States when I was 8 years old. And I didn't speak English initially. So my only real friend was my brother, my younger brother. He's a year younger than me. So since I can remember, what we've loved to do is build worlds, and we were all very imaginative kids. So we were always making up these fantastical worlds. And that never really went away. So when I started doing music in my teens, it was with my brother, and I recruited him to sort of make album covers. His passion was illustration, mine was music. Yeah. But we sort of were like, how can we still hang out and do stuff together, even though your passion is music and your passion is art. So that was sort of the way in which, I think it took me years to realize this, but it was a way for me to maintain a friendship with my brother, was to take our two art forms and combine them together. And I love the Gorillaz. That's the other thing too. Gorillaz
so
are
good.
awesome. And not having to do band photos is just wonderful, you know? Even though I've done a few of them lately, but no, so the concept sort of is there's this persona of myself that is a comic book character, and him and his brother travel through time in this vehicle called the Kudu, and they adventure through time. And so what we do is we release a comic book story paired with an album every year, pretty much, at least for the last few years. And there's some tie over between the comics and the music, and more we've kind of been, honing in on how to combine those two art forms. It's a little trickier than I initially thought, but it's been a fun challenge to kind of have those stories, the art of storytelling and music combined with the art of storytelling with comic books. So yeah, now the goal sort of is to just continue telling stories with the comic books, and then having the music come right alongside it and sort of either emotionally connect the two together, so they're sort of the same emotional vibe, or imagery wise. So all of the album covers, for example, are panels from the comic book and scenes from the comic book. So the idea is to invite people into a world that is about more than just music. Not that music is wonderful, and music is a world all in itself, but what excites us is taking the music and then building a sci-fi world around it. I'm a huge sci-fi fan, so I read sci-fi growing up, and falling into a world is just such a wonderful. It's both an escape and a way to learn more about yourself and about our world. I feel like if you dive into science fiction, especially, it's often a commentary on our own society.
The actual creative process of music and recording, mixing, the mastering, writing the song, that can get so. There's no kind of limit to the amount of detail that you can go into with that. And I'm sure it's the same with illustration as well. How do you stop from sinking into a black hole with it?
Yeah, I mean,
it's so hard, isn't it? when you are creating music to be like, right, it's finished, it's done. And this must be like twice that.
It is.
Yeah.
It totally is. We always ask ourselves why, why did we jump into this whole thing? Because it's such a challenge. I mean, I have a album coming out in March, and the story portion of it, we are like, spending hours on right now to wrap up and to sort of make sure it all connects. So so it absolutely is a challenge. The challenge of when do you know when you're finished? And I think, a sort of common answer is it's never finished. You just run out of time. That's sort of the standard response. For me, one thing that's been really helpful for me is understanding what I am actually, what I'm working on. And I've learned over the years that what I'm actually crafting is not a song at a time, but I'm crafting a process by which I take an idea that's in my head and turn it into a physical form. And that process is the actual thing that I'm working on.
Yeah.
And what that means is every song is just a step along the way to mastering that process. And if I think about it like that, then I don't really get stuck on a single song. What I do is I push a song as far as I can take it. And then if I feel something like, oh, I don't feel fully satisfied with where I am with the song, then I often ask myself, okay, why and how can that teach me about what's wrong with my process why am I arriving at this point where I'm unsatisfied? It has something to do with my process and my way of thinking. And that's where the real adjustment is made, So I'll never release a song that I hate, but I'm always chasing an ideal that I know I'll never reach. But the training and the exciting thing for me is watching how my mind is shaped by what I do and watching that process in my mind evolve over time. And if I focus on that aspect of it and I stop focusing on the end result, I'm much more willing to let things go. And often when I let a song go and I'm not quite there emotionally with it, if I revisit it once it's out, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. Or, oh my gosh, this says something about me that I didn't even realize when I was making it. Really, I was struggling with, whatever, this personal issue, or I was, distracted because I was in love or whatever. And that's what that song is about. That song is about that area, that time in my life where I was a little distracted, or I was a little sad or whatever. And that's why I didn't feel good about it at the time. So I think songs are sort of living things, and they take sometimes if you don't like them initially, if you revisit them, they have something else to say to you later on. So I don't know. That's sort of my philosophy, and it just helps me let go of things.
Perfection just doesn't exist when it comes to music and anything creative, really. So
yeah, I think it's really about, at least for me, it's a timestamp on an area in my life, either a time period or an aspect of my life that I'm busy exploring.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for that reason, being good enough or being perfect that's not really for me what it's about. It's about the time when I was 18 and I had a great summer. And there's a song I wrote called Starlit Summer's Eve, and that was about that summer. And is it perfect? No. And is the music, is the recording, could I have done better with the recording? Sure, absolutely. But I feel like I captured that summer feeling in that song.
Yeah.
And so that's what it's about for me, is it's about capturing moments. And as long as I stay authentic to just being present in moments, I don't have to worry too much about it needing to be perfect. I think a lot of the problem comes in comparing yourself and looking at the results and how many people are listening and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That drives you to
insanity.
Put new expectations on yourself.
So speaking of excellent music and excellent creativity, what is your track of the week?
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to like pull up my Spotify here. That's it. I've been loving film scores lately. And it makes sense because we're tying visual media with our music all the time. So I often find myself gravitating towards film scores. And lately I've been listening to old Western music.
All right.
So there's a guy named, he's a legend, Ennio Morricone. I hope I'm saying his name right. Ennio Morricone. He's like the top guy who made all of the old Westerns. He made the music for all the old Westerns. So there's a movie called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly with Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
And I've been listening through that soundtrack. It's just the most wonderful piece of music. Arrangement-wise and just feel-wise.
My last question is, what is the best lesson that you've learned in your career so far?
I've been blessed with a dad who's sort of a business-minded person. He runs his own company. So from early on, I was really taught to approach things from a business perspective. And I think that's really helped me to avoid a lot of the pitfalls that artists find themselves in. One thing that I always wish I could just say to artists is that the music you're making, the recordings and the compositions are so valuable. So think very carefully before you sign them away or sign all of it away. These things, as I've gone through the industry, I've learned these things, recordings and compositions, the income generated from them lasts forever. Your kids can one day benefit from it. So it really makes me sad when I see artists sort of in the beginning, when they don't understand that, sign these like lifetime contracts and that kind of thing. So my advice and the thing I've learned is really value what you're creating and study up on the business aspect of the recorded music industry. And understand the value of what you have because it is valuable. So it's a lesson of value, understanding your own value and the value of the things you're creating.
Thanks so much for being a great guest on Backstage Pass podcast.
Thank you so much. I've had a wonderful time and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks for tuning into this episode. Be sure to hit subscribe and leave a comment to let us know what you think. And I will see you next time on Backstage Pass.